So anyone who is just logging on, again, it is Brittany with Scott Leroy Marketing, and today we are going to be going over the Teams platform within Command. This is going to be everything from how to share contacts to how to locate your contacts, how to set up marketing, and just some of the general ins and outs of the team platform itself. If you are not currently set up on a team, this is not something that you will have access to. This is specifically for agents who are working out of a recognized team through their Keller Williams Market Center. So if you're working as an independent agent, you won't have access to a lot of the items that we're going over, but it will still be a great overview so you can see what you could have access to if you are on a team or decide to start a team. So I'm going to be logging in on Firefox. As far as the browsers go, you guys can access Command through any browser. I tend to use Firefox and I always use a private window just because for me, it seems to work best. If you guys ever do run into an issue on Command, I always recommend trying another browser first because that usually corrects the issue for you. So I'm going to go ahead and do sign in. Once I am logged into the Command system, the first thing I want to show you guys is how to tell whether you're on a team. So this is going to be short and sweet. Top right-hand corner, if we actually click on our names, you'll notice Lori is a part of a team. She's a part of the Godfrey Real Estate Group. So she has a team profile that I can kind of toggle back and forth between. If you click on your name in the top right-hand corner and there is not an additional profile under other accounts, this just means you are set up as an independent agent. If you were recently added to a team, it does take 72 hours for that to actually populate on your account. And if you were recently removed from a team or maybe in the process of switching teams, anything along those lines, it always takes a full 72 hours for the system to reflect changes made. So don't panic. But if you were recently added, give it that full 72 hours and then you'll have that same profile that you can toggle between, populate on your drop-down list. Just something to keep in mind. The first thing I want to kind of jump into is going to be under settings. I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys some of the items that populate for teams specifically under our settings portal. And settings does usually take a couple seconds to load. So again, don't worry, just give it a second and it should populate for you. Once we are under settings, one of the big things we want to make sure we are taking into consideration is which profile we are on when we're under settings. This will also apply to any profile we are on when we click on the specific area we're looking to utilize within Command. A lot of these options on the left-hand side, you're going to notice you'll still have access to toggle back and forth. The big one that you cannot toggle back and forth is primarily going to be listings, and then also your opportunities, you won't need to, it won't make a difference. And then websites, you won't have to. A lot of the other options, you'll notice if you toggle back and forth, your view changes drastically because they are actually separate profiles. So if I switch over to my team profile right now, you'll notice Lori no longer has anything connected under her Facebook or Twitter. And if I toggle back to her personal one, you'll notice that it is all connected under her Facebook account right now. So it is actually letting her know that under the team, she doesn't currently have Facebook connected. This is a relatively new update. Previously, the settings section specifically under applications where we are right now, didn't matter which profile you were on. It now will actually show you what has been set up for the team. So that's just something to keep in mind as you guys are starting to set everything up. Link up your accounts and everything from here. So first things first, on our left-hand side, we do have access to select our default account underneath general settings. So if you already know you're going to be running all of your business through the team account, you may want to make your default account the team account. This is just going to ensure that each time you log in, it's just going to automatically open up your team profile instead of having you manually toggle between the two. So you would just be able to go ahead and select the team profile, save changes, and all that means is each time you log in, it's automatically going to pull up that team profile for you. Underneath team management, this is something that generally only a Rainmaker is going to have access to edit. Unlimited permissions will also have access to come in here, but they will not have the same access as a Rainmaker. Team management is exactly what it sounds like. This is everyone on your team. This is where they're going to show up. This is where you're going to have access to adjust permissions. You're going to be able to see what email is linked to their actual account. Gives you access to kind of just see what's going on with the team itself. One of the biggest things that I do recommend keeping an eye on is the permissions, specifically because depending on the permission you have set up for one of your team members, it's actually going to either limit or give them access to particular areas of that team account. Meaning, if you have somebody set up and they're set up with enhanced, they're going to have a little bit more access than someone who has standard. And then unlimited is going to be kind of like the head honcho. They have access to absolutely everything under that team profile. You'll notice that if somebody is added to a team, they do have a drop-down list where you can select whichever permission applies to that particular individual. The beauty of this is there is no turnaround. So you can actually toggle these and it automatically updates to the point where all they have to do is refresh their screen and their new permission level will give them access immediately. So there's no 72-hour turnaround. So if somebody is missing access to something and you bump them up to enhanced or unlimited, whatever it may be, it will reflect on their account immediately, which is fantastic. So there's no waiting around for that. In regards to the Rainmaker, you'll notice Lori is set up as the Rainmaker of the team, and she is locked in with unlimited. That is specifically because the Rainmaker is also the owner of the team. So when they're added to the team tool by your Market Center administrator, it just automatically locks them in as unlimited just to avoid any issues. If you guys are in the process of starting a team and maybe you have some additional members that you need to have added to the team, you can do this a couple of different ways. First one being the obvious one. We have add member right on the right-hand side. When we click on the add member, this is going to give us two options, and we have add a team member, add a guest user. Team member, think of this as a licensed real estate representative. Team members are generally going to be real estate agents. Guest user is going to be fantastic for anybody who either does not have a license or is not going to be added into Winmore by your office. So in other words, if you are maybe joining or having an admin join, maybe it's on a temporary basis, maybe it's a marketing coordinator and they're coming on just to help you get everything organized. Or maybe you're hiring somebody outside of the United States and they just don't have a social security number to add into Winmore, that will be required. So guest user, they can kind of bypass all of that. It's literally a guest user that kind of piggybacks off of the Rainmaker's account. They would be given their own login, so the Rainmaker does not have to provide their login, which is sometimes nice. And then on top of that, they essentially have access to all of the team tools, but they will not be given a Keller Williams email. They will not be given an independent DocuSign account, and they will not be given ownership rights to contacts. So it's very much a guest user. So that's just something to also keep in mind. If you do have someone that you need added as a team member, meaning they're going to need an independent DocuSign account compatible with Command, they're going to need a KW email, they're going to need to have access, and they're going to be practicing real estate, that is something you would want to do add team member. This is the equivalent of emailing your Market Center administrator and asking them to add so-and-so to your team. Does the exact same thing. It essentially just red flags your Market Center administrator in your office to add the person to your team, make sure they're in Winmore, and they'll add them to the team tool for you. Only the MCA has access to the team tool. Team tool is what, again, will be used to add people who are already in Winmore to your team. So for guest user, this is where we wouldn't have to worry about the MCA. We wouldn't have to worry about any of that. This allows the Rainmaker to do this manually. I'm going to show you guys this process just so if you have somebody in this circumstance, you'll be able to get that taken care of as soon as possible. So if I go ahead and select add guest user, it pulls this pop-up letting me know, yep, I'm adding a guest user, all set. It's also letting me know how many seats I have available. Right now, I only have one because Scott Leroy was also added as a guest user on Lori's account. Each Rainmaker is given 2 guest user accounts, and this is fabulous because if you are a part of a mega team that maybe has 2 or 3 Rainmakers, that means you're going to have 4 or 6 guest seats. That being said, it does take a full 72 hours for this to go live, meaning it does take the full 2 overnight feed. Once you essentially submit this, what will happen is it gets that ball rolling. It adds kind of a carbon copy to the back end of Lori's account underneath our team management section. And then in regards to the actual login information, you'll notice we're pretty much creating that here. We're putting in our first name, the last name, the email address, and password that we want used for this account. And then what will happen is after that 72 hours has passed, the email address that you plug in here is going to get a confirmation email with the username. Couple big things in regards to guest user accounts, and I'm hopeful that this will change down the line, but as of right now, this is how it's set up. You are not able to change any of this information once the account is actually sent in for a request. So if you mistype the first name, the last name, the email address, or you forget the password, you have to completely delete the account and recreate the guest user account. So in regards to the first name and last name, if you have somebody who you're unsure if they're going to be here for an extended period, you can even just put like administrative assistant, first name administrative, last name assistant. That's completely fine. But make sure that you are putting something in here that you can use for essentially the lifetime of this particular account. Email address, personal recommendation. Always make sure it's an email that you have access to. So if you're creating an email for an administrative assistant or a guest user, marketing coordinator, whatever it may be, make sure you're creating that email address just so you also have access to what's being sent there. Password, pick something simple, pick something that you're going to remember. That way you don't accidentally lock yourself out of this account, because recreating the account, keep in mind, again, it's going to take that full 72 hours to process, which is just a lot of time for somebody to be locked out of command. So just something to keep in mind. Once you guys have plugged in all of the information, agree and send requests, it starts that 72-hour clock, meaning it will just kind of get that ball rolling on the account for you. X out of this. In regards to the username, if you guys happen to lose the email with the username in it, don't panic. Rainmaker can actually come into the back account and you'll see right here, this very long, funny looking username. That's actually the username for the admin account. They're generally a little bit funky. Most of them will also have an underscore these days. So if you guys do come across that, maybe you set up an account a while back and you forgot about it, you do still have access to it as long as you can figure out the password. So the username will always be right above the email on guest accounts. It's also a nice, quick, easy way to see who was added through Winmore and who was added as a guest user on a team account. If they have a username populating right here, they're a guest. So that's a great way to just tell those apart. In regards to permissions, we do have a quick tip video that I did a while back that goes over some of the basics of the permission section. One of the big things I just want to show you guys that you do have access to is if we come in here and click on permissions, this is just going to give you a quick overview as to what each permission has, what each permission offers. It's also going to give you access to the full permission breakdown. The full permission breakdown is also something that I did hyperlink in the notes that I shared with you guys originally. Keller Williams International put them on a beautiful article that breaks this down, just so you guys can see exactly what is covered with each permission. But the big thing, the takeaway from today, if you guys only remember one thing from this class, just keep in mind that standard permissions are going to limit the agents from having access to a lot of the tools. So if you are planning on running everything out of the team profile, you may want to look into enhanced permissions. You'll notice that team management, it's only unlimited, which is completely fine. This is more so kind of more on the administrative side. But once we come down to contacts, you'll notice that standard permissions, they can view lead pool, but they can't view contacts. They can't change contact owner. They can't nurture the contact. This means they physically cannot do anything with their own contacts under the team. If they are the owner, or essentially if they move their own contacts into the team profile, it actually removes their ownership as well. Standard permission cannot even own contacts under a team profile. So this is a fantastic permission setup depending on what type of items you guys are A, running through the team, and B, if you have maybe a transaction coordinator that really isn't going to be navigating through the contact section, standard permissions is totally fine. It's going to give them access to what they need access to, but it's going to block them from the contacts. For agents practicing real estate, they may want to set their contacts up on like a drip campaign or send out an email or update the contact profile. They won't have access to do any of that. So that's just something to keep in mind. Scrolling down a smidge more, same thing with smart plans. You'll notice that standard does not have any access to those. All they can do is view. They can't add contacts to them. They can't edit smart plans. They can't do anything. So again, just something to kind of keep in mind. Tasks, they can't do anything with tasks either, meaning that tasks from smart plans also will not show up on their account. Designs, they have some basic access to designs depending on what you guys are looking to have done. And then campaigns, they do have access to do some things through campaigns because a lot of the campaign portion is going to be run through the Rainmaker's account anyway. So it's kind of just giving them piggyback access on those existing accounts that have been set up. But just so you guys can kind of just see a brief overview, keep that in mind if you guys are planning on running everything out of the team. Enhanced permissions are just going to allow your team members to really nurture their contacts, get them set up on marketing, and kind of manage that side of the business versus standard where it pretty much blocks them out of everything. Go ahead and X out of that. And again, the full breakdown is also on the team notes that I shared with you guys at the beginning of class, and this is going to be hyperlinked under the recording. You guys will see the SLM tip, understanding team permissions. I go over that and compare two profiles so you guys can see it in real time. And then KW answers their team permission level details. This is actively updated as well. So they actually update this in real time. So if things change, that article is being updated. So that's also a great thing. Just bookmark it. That way you have it and you can always reference it. So that's pretty much it for the team management section. The next section I just want to go over briefly with you guys is going to be under command settings, which is our next section underneath. Applications, we already went over. That's what we started on earlier. But underneath contacts, the big takeaway from today is understand that everything underneath this contact section is either going to be for your team, or if you toggle over to personal, it will pull up completely different information. Going to give you the same options. You still have your contact archive, your wipe, tags, sources, fields, but you'll notice if I switch over to personal, my lead routing will disappear. And you'll also notice if I switch over to personal, the items that I have under tags, sources, fields, even contact archive will actually be different because the system does look at itself as a completely different profile when I toggle between these two. So that's something to keep in mind. In regards to our contact archive, and I'll pull this up. It usually takes a minute to load, so I apologize. But while it loads, our contact archive, if you ever have contacts and you are archiving those, whether they are on your team or your personal profile, make sure that you are taking that into consideration if you are adding new contacts to your database. So what that essentially means is if you have, say, 50 contacts that you archived previously, maybe they were imported incorrectly, something was skipped, you forgot to tag them, whatever it may be, you may have 50 contacts sitting under here. If you go to add that contact profile to the personal or the team database down the line, and they're still sitting under contact archive, the system will red flag it saying this contact is already in the system. So that being said, when you're on a team, it's just one additional location that you want to make sure you are double checking before importing, before panicking if a contact isn't showing up. Just make sure that they're not hiding in the contact section underneath our archives. So if I toggle between her two profiles, she doesn't have anything in the archive section now, but it would pull up different people depending on which profile I'm on. So just something to keep in mind. Database wipe. This is the same thing. Heaven forbid you ever come in here and accidentally click these buttons. Archive all data, or archive all contacts are going to do exactly that. It's going to archive every single contact that Lori has under her team profile. If I toggle over to personal, it's going to archive every single contact that Lori has in her personal database. This is something to keep in mind. I don't recommend doing this without first exporting a copy of your contacts, but if you are ever in a situation where you need to wipe your database, make sure you are on the correct profile, as there is no undo button. So if you guys click this accidentally or you have to backtrack, it all has to be done manually. There is no undo button for this. Same thing with delete all archives. This is going to delete all of the archived contacts under the team versus all of the archived contacts under the personal. For contact tags, lead sources, and custom fields, these are all going to work the exact same way as your personal database, which is fantastic. There is a ton of overlap in regards to functionality. The only thing that we want to keep in mind is tags that are created under the team will remain under the team. Tags that are created under your personal are going to remain under the personal. Lori has gone ahead and kind of recreated some of these tags. You'll notice this one's missing the 2, but she's recreated some of these tags under her personal database for her team and vice versa. So she has a lot of replicates created, which is perfect. If you are looking to utilize the same tags that you have on your personal database on the team database, they will need to be created under the team. So the tags themselves do not communicate with both profiles. They are independent to that particular profile. So we would want to make sure that we would create that under the team if we wanted to use it there. Same goes for lead sources and our custom fields. So in regards to lead sources, you are provided a bunch of lead sources from Keller Williams International. You'll notice all of these were created by the system. You do have access to create custom sources. I also teach the database class. My biggest recommendation when it comes to sources is if you are looking for something to filter your contacts with, just create a tag. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. Tags are a little bit easier to filter by. Sources are a little bit finicky when it comes to the searching for contacts portion. So it might make your life a little bit easier if you utilize the tag portion. You can still always import sources just when it comes to filtering contacts, adding them to campaigns, adding them to smart plans, whatever it may be. Usually pulling by tag is just a little bit simpler. For custom fields, you guys do have access to create custom fields. This is pretty cool. If you guys haven't started doing this yet, definitely recommend taking a peek. In regards to the custom fields portion, we do have access to, again, toggle back and forth. You'll notice Lori has a couple on her personal database. She can just manually recreate them under the team as well. But this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a custom field that will show up on your contact profile, allowing you to capture additional information. And again, these are specific to the profile. So if you guys did create some under that personal one, make sure you're recreating them under the team. Only the Rainmaker and unlimited permissions are going to have access to do any of these items. So that's also something to keep in mind. If you are set up with standard permissions, you will not have access to edit any of this. Enhanced, you'll have access to view, but you won't have access to edit. Underneath lead routing, if you guys have not used lead routing yet, it is so cool. So you guys have access to set up lead routing, which is going to allow you to capture leads through your team profile, and the lead route portion is automatically going to delegate those leads out to members on your team. This is going to avoid them from getting lost. It's going to make sure that they're nurtured and contacted as soon as possible. It's also just going to help you guys kind of keep your database as organized as humanly possible. We do have a tip video that goes over this process, which I did attach to the notes on here. If we scroll down, it should be like midway down right here. So SLM set up lead routing. I do recommend taking a look at this. I've also attached some additional tips provided by Keller Williams International that have some additional notes. And then I've also attached some variations of the lead route portion that you guys have access to. This is all in the notes for you. That way you guys can kind of set these up. My one recommendation when setting up a lead route is definitely make sure that you're using all sources. And you guys can kind of go through and get that set up. You guys can see exactly how it will come through. And that will just allow you guys to start redirecting your leads. We are going to jump into lead pool today as well. So we'll go over that just in case you guys have already started using the lead routing tool. We'll go over lead pool and what that does and how those two integrate as well. Minimize contacts. The next section that I want to cover is going to be our opportunity settings. The big one with opportunity settings is going to be right underneath our team permissions. So for team permissions, this is where the Rainmaker can either allow or basically enable, block, or select particular agents who have access to create independent opportunities under their command. Generally, when you're on a team, the opportunities will be created under the team profile. If you have an agent who is either in the process of transitioning onto the team, off of the team, maybe they're an expansion agent working out of multiple market centers, you may want to enable them to create personal opportunities. This is going to allow them to remain having access to their independent opportunities on their independent pipeline. If you guys haven't started dabbling with team opportunities yet, we're going to jump into that shortly as well. That's going to show you guys that there are multiple tabs when you're on a team, one for you, one for the team. So if you guys are working off of a team and no is selected, that just means that your personal tab will essentially cease to exist, and you'll only have access to create opportunities on the team. This is completely fine if you have agents just starting out and they're creating their opportunities on that team. But when you have those transfer agents, you have people joining or people leaving. This also means that they're going to lose access to their existing opportunity. They're going to lose access to that pipeline. And they're also not going to have access to create new opportunities outside of the team. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. If you are looking to manually add somebody, when you click on that, it will give you everybody on your team who is essentially able to create opportunities. You'll notice Scott doesn't show up. He's not a licensed real estate agent. So it's not even giving him the option, but you guys do have access to select your licensed real estate agents on your team and enable personal opportunities for only that person. You can also do it in bulk and just click yes, but a lot of times that may cause confusion. So just so you guys understand where that pulls from, you guys do have access to update that through the Rainmaker's account. The next one I want to go over with you guys is going to be under campaigns. So for the campaign section, this is something that only the Rainmaker is going to have access to. Again, unlimited status will also have access to view and kind of navigate this. But in regards to making edits, I have seen that unlimited permissions, for some reason, it hasn't been saving them lately. It might just be an update that's going on. Originally, with unlimited permissions, you were able to tweak this as well. So I'm hoping it might just be a timing issue. But in regards to campaigns, pretty straightforward. Default accounts. This is allowing us to select the default accounts for the campaigns that will be run through command. So starting first things first, landing pages and marketing profile. Which profile do you want those to pull from? We can select no default, Lori, or Eric. You can leave this as no default. All that means is it's really just not going to pull anybody specific. I do recommend locking somebody in here, especially if you plan on running everything out of the Rainmaker's account. You can just select the Rainmaker. That will just lock in the branding. So it pulls from their marketing profile and their landing pages when it comes to those team campaigns. Scrolling down a smidge more, we have our paid ads and social posts. If you guys are planning on utilizing the campaigns portion under the team, you do want to make sure that you have your accounts connected here. This is going to give your team members access to all run their ads on that same Facebook page or that same Twitter account or that same Instagram. It's going to give you guys a little bit more access in regards to getting everything posted, getting everything run through the ads portion, and it's going to allow you guys to actually share an account, which is really nice. Everything ends up being very uniform in that case. If you guys have not yet connected these, don't panic. You can do it at any time. But once you do, it is going to kind of give you like a heads up. Hey, are you looking to share this with your team? You check off the little box, and then it's going to let you proceed with having that connected. All this means is, again, Lori has Eric on her team. So this means if she connects accounts here and sets them as the default account, this means when Eric goes in to run an ad on the team profile, he will actually have access to select Lori's business Facebook page instead of running them on his account. He'll still have access to run them on his account. He would just need to do it through his personal profile versus the team profile. So it's kind of a nice way for the Rainmaker to be able to share that with their team. Last but not least, we have Command Mail and MailChimp. When it comes to email and the MailChimp platform, when you guys are selecting this, this is going to be for email campaigns specifically. You'll notice Smart Plans is our next section, which is kind of its separate entity. But in regards to email campaigns, if you guys are sending out email campaigns through that team profile, you can select the default Command Mail count. You'll notice that it only gives us access to the Rainmaker, which is completely fine. This just means that anytime an email campaign is sent out through the team profile, it would mean that Lori would essentially be the person's allowance in which we are using for those emails. Command Mail gives you guys $5,000 a month. So it means it would just be dwindling down that allowance. It's also going to brand those emails using Lori's marketing profile, meaning that all of the footers of those emails will be pulling directly from Lori's marketing profile. So that's just something to keep in mind. You can set this as no default. However, I have noticed when nothing is set as a default and you go to send out an email through the team, it does sometimes give you an error. So that's just, again, something to keep in mind. MailChimp. Same thing. If you guys are looking to send out an email campaign, and keep in mind, this is specifically for emails. Smart Plans will not communicate with MailChimp. But if you guys are sending out an email campaign and you're just looking to utilize MailChimp instead of Command Mail, you would just need to connect an account and label it as the default. This will, again, allow everyone to share that account, which is pretty cool. So that's just how you guys can get that connected. The next one is our Smart Plans. Very similar idea. The only difference between these two is that Smart Plans are like drip campaigns. So you have your drip campaigns and then you have your actual campaigns, which is I apologize on the terminology, but your regular campaigns are kind of like one-offs. They're going to be one and done. You're going to send out an email, it's one mass email, and then it's over. You're going to do a paid ad, it's one paid ad, then it's over. You can keep recreating new ones, but they don't piggyback off of each other. Smart plans will piggyback off of each other. Smart plans are drip campaigns in the sense that it may start with a text message, then it might be a 3-day delay, then an email, then a 6-day delay, then a prompt for you to call them with a quick little script or a reminder of what you need to talk to them about. It's a way for you to kind of set them up, leave it, and the system reminds you what to do next. So these are kind of cool if you guys haven't looked at them yet. But as far as smart plans for teams, you guys do, again, have a separate profile on your smart plans tab where you can toggle back and forth between your personal and your team, and it will pull up different plans when you guys are running them through the team. How the Rainmaker has them set up on the back end will depend how they actually go out to your clients. So we have our tasks currently is set up as Rainmaker instead of contact assignee. So what this means is when tasks are created through the Smart Plan portal, they are automatically going to be assigned and linked to the Rainmaker versus assigning them and linking them to the contact assignee. For the email portion, same thing. She currently has it set up as the Rainmaker. Every single Smart Plan you guys set up, if an email is involved, it's going to be run through command mail. MailChimp is not compatible with Smart Plan, so that's something to keep in mind as well. But if Rainmaker is selected, this means every single email that is sent out is going to be branded with the Rainmaker's information. It's also going to use the Rainmaker's allowance for command mail. So if you guys are setting the Rainmaker up as the default here, as well as campaigns, just keep that in mind that you guys do have 5,000 emails on command mail per month. And if you guys have multiple people sharing that account, you are going to be chipping away at that allowance very quickly. You do have access to purchase more underneath your application. So if you guys are ever in a situation where you run out of command mail emails or you run out of that allowance, you do have access to upgrade that account and get more. So don't panic in regards to that, but just kind of keep that in mind. SMS Mms, this is where Twilio comes in. So we get asked this question very often. Can teams share Twilio? Technically, no. This, however, is a nice little loophole. Technically, you're not able to share a Twilio account, meaning the Twilio account cannot be linked to more than one command platform. However, if you are utilizing Team Smart Plans and you are sending out text messages using the Twilio account, if you have this set as Rainmaker, it's automatically going to piggyback off of the Rainmaker's Twilio account, meaning every single text message sent out through Team Smart Plans will be from the same phone number. It also means that it's going to chip away at the same allowance. Same deal, Twilio is a paid platform, so you essentially purchase credits through them. So any Smart Plan sent out through the team will utilize the credits that are being purchased through the Rainmaker's account. This is a nice kind of loophole for team members to be able to share one Twilio account. So can you share a Twilio account? Technically, no, but if you have it set up here, it's going to let you kind of go ahead and at least share it for Smart Plans. Last but not least, we have our Rainmaker dropdown. This is primarily going to have the only Rainmaker on your team selected automatically, but if you guys do have multiple Rainmakers populating, you'll have a dropdown and you can select whichever one applies. If you guys did make changes, make sure that you are clicking on Save Changes in the top right. Otherwise, it will not lock those in. Perfect. So that covers everything under settings. The connect settings underneath your marketing profile. If you guys have not yet taken a look at this yet, I do recommend kind of doing a once over and make sure that your team information is populating. So your marketing profile is your ground zero for all of your marketing. So if you guys have a team logo, you'll notice it looks a little bit funky here, but it does automatically correct itself on all marketing and it looks beautiful. But if you guys have a team logo, you guys can plug that in. Team name, that's also another big one. Make sure that's plugged in. In regards to scrolling down to where contact information is, if you guys have a team email or a team website you guys are looking to share, this is where you guys can plug that information in as well. I just recommend doing a once over on your marketing profile to make sure that it does reflect your team marketing and it makes sense and kind of covers all of the bases that you're looking to cover. If you guys do go through and spot check this, keep in mind that there is a save button all the way down at the bottom. You would want to make sure that you go ahead and click save. And then last but not least on the marketing profile, just make sure that this is a green bubble. In regards to this, if you're not seeing a green dot, this just means all of the information that you do go through and kind of sweep on the marketing profile means it's not being shared out. So you do want to make sure that this is showing up as that green dot. This just means that everything has been shared with the command platforms and all of your marketing will appear branded. Now that we've kind of gone through the back end of the settings, we're going to go ahead and jump into the contacts, and I'm going to show you guys some of the items available for the contacts portion and what that looks like for team members. The big thing that I want you guys to kind of take away from today's class in regards to the contacts portion is just keep in mind when you guys are adding contacts into your database, keep an eye on the profile that you guys are adding them into. So always kind of do a quick glance up to the top right-hand side of your command, really when you're doing anything in command, and just kind of make a mental note, okay, I'm on my team profile. Okay, I'm on my personal profile, because that's going to let you know which profile you're not only creating these new items under, but down the line, if you have to locate that again, it's just going to kind of be a quick reminder as to which profile you need to be on in order to find it. So as far as this section goes, I'm already on the team profile. So these are two contacts that are already in Lori's team account. One of the big things that we get asked very regularly is tags. So you'll notice we have a column showing up as legacy tags and a column showing up as regular tags. I'm going to swap over to Lori's personal account, and I'm going to walk you guys through how to move a contact over to the team. And then I'm going to show you guys how to navigate those legacy tags, just so you guys can kind of see the difference. So I'm going to pull up Lori's personal account, and we're going to select, we'll move Chandler. So to move somebody from your personal account over to your team, you can do this in bulk. You can do it one by one, but once you start checking people off, you'll notice that you have a bulk action drop-down list populate. I can also bulk select all of my contacts up to 500 a time, and I can do it all at the same time as well. So it's completely up to you. You can either manually check people or you can do it in bulk. But once I click on this bulk action, you'll notice I have a ton of options populating here, everything from activities to smart plans, to marking as leads, to sharing, to all of this information you guys now have access to. So as far as, they just moved this on us. I don't know if you guys have done this before. Change account used to be the last option. It's now kind of right smack in the middle. But if you guys are looking to kind of move the account profile, so I have Chandler Bing selected, and if I want to move the account, I can click on change account. And all that's letting me do is it's letting me take the Chandler Bing contact profile and everything that it entails. And it's going to allow me to select my team profile and change account. This is just going to move Chandler Bing over to my team database and remove this copy from my personal database. This is both something that some agents want to do, but we've also seen this is not always the case. You do have multiple ways to get contacts from your personal database over to the team. As of right now, when you move your personal contact from your personal database to the team, there is no undo button. So that's something to keep in mind. What we generally recommend is doing a bulk export from your personal database and then a bulk import into your team database. This will allow you to not only have the contacts in the correct profile, but it's also going to allow you to maintain ownership of those contacts and also kind of keep a carbon copy in your personal database just in case. So that's definitely something that we recommend. If you guys do ask us to transfer contacts, we can give you both options. But just kind of keep in mind, again, if we do it the way we just did it by selecting and moving the contact over via the change account, there is not an undo option right now. We're hoping that will not be the case forever. It does look like they are consistently making updates on this team portal for you guys. There's a ton of new stuff available. So we're hoping that that's also something that's being added. So I'm going to go ahead and just refresh over to the team and we'll see, we'll pull up Chandler Bing. It usually takes a couple minutes to go over there. Let's see. Pull this up. I'll remove some of our tags to see if we can pull up Chandler. Oh, I spelled his name right. Ah. Let's see. My internet is a little bit spotty at the moment, so I want to make sure you guys can pull this up. typing. They might be running updates on this right now because it's not pulling up. Let's do all contacts. Might be blocking it. There we go. It's because I had a filter on. So that's also a perfect example. If you guys have a filter on set up, or if you have contacts, if you have a smart view that you have saved that blocks any contacts, if you're looking for someone, it will not pull them up. So you'll notice that my contact did come over. I have Chandler Bing showing up right here. I'm in my team profile now, and he's showing up here for me. You'll also notice that my legacy tag is showing up here. So for the legacy tags, just a couple of kind of quick points on the legacy tag portion. Legacy tags are just your personal tags that were moved over to the team profile. You will only end up with legacy tags if you move a contact over following the process we just did using the change account underneath our bulk action. If you are exporting your personal contacts and importing them into the team profile, this will maintain your tags as normal tags and no additional stages will be necessary. You won't have to manually retag anybody or anything like that. That's also kind of the silver lining of exporting and importing versus moving contacts. You won't have to worry about legacy tags. As far as our legacy tags go, it should be the last column, but if you guys are not seeing that populate, you guys can go ahead and click on customize columns. And we can go ahead and make sure that legacy tags are checked off. And you can also, I usually recommend putting them right next to your tags, just so you're not darting back and forth from side to side. But if you put them next to your existing tags and apply that, it's just going to put them right next to each other. So you don't have to worry about moving your screen around as much. It seems to make things a little bit easier. But for legacy tags, one of the big things you want to keep in mind is legacy tags are not currently filterable. What this means is that if you wanted to go ahead and say, set up an email campaign, or you wanted to bulk add people to a smart plan, anything along those lines, once you pull up those sections, it's not going to let you filter based on a tag showing up under legacy tag. It will only show up for tags underneath the actual tags column. So legacy tags are kind of like reminders that you still need to create this tag under the team and manually tag those contacts. You can do this in bulk. We have tip videos that go over how to do this in bulk as well. So if you are someone who already moved your contacts via the change account portion, don't worry. It's not, you can manually do this. It is not, it's not a lot of steps either. But as far as pulling up your legacy tags, you can click on them and it will pull up everybody who is tagged with that tag, which is kind of nice. So if I go ahead and click that, remove that, you'll notice it pulls up my other people who are tagged with that particular tag. I can now go ahead and essentially select these people and I can bulk add my tag and I can come in here and I can do import. I can't even remember what the tag was. Was it 32222? So we'll do add tag, import 32222. It's telling me you haven't created this yet. I'm logged in as a Rainmaker, so it's going to let me create it. Unlimited permissions. You guys will also have access to create this tag, which is great. I can go ahead and do create. I can make it colorful if I want. I generally recommend that just so you can tell the legacy tag from the team tag apart. So I'm going to go ahead and make this one green, and then I'll do create tag. Now it's bringing me back to the search, letting me know I can search for the tag I just created, add selected, and now I'll go ahead. It always does that. It's always the last one. It takes a second to load. Go back here. I think they're running updates on this for you guys right now because it's usually, let's pull this out. Yeah, it looks like they're running some updates. Let's see. Import. Pull these guys up. There we go. If you guys are having any issues with the contacts, just try refreshing your screen. It does look like they might be running updates right now. KWRI generally runs updates on Tuesdays. Sometimes they trickle into that Wednesday. But you'll notice all of my contacts now have that tag. I can now, if this drives you guys crazy, you can also remove that, which is pretty cool. So now that I've selected my contacts, I can do the exact same thing. And instead of going in and doing my add tags, I'll do my remove tags. It's towards the bottom. And I can come in here and I can just select off my, it inverts the colors. I'll go ahead and remove that. And it will remove my legacy tag. Again, it usually takes a couple minutes, but you guys do have access to swap those out. The easiest way to filter based on that particular tag is just click it and it will pull up the contacts that have that tag on it automatically. And you'll notice my legacy tags are gone. So that's how you guys can kind of transition your contacts over. If you guys are still trying to do this, you're having any trouble with it, let us know. We can always take a look at it. You would need to manually do the tags, but we can definitely assist with exporting contacts from your personal database and getting those formatted for the team database for you. Underneath the contact portion, one of the big things you also want to keep in mind is keeping an eye at the contact profile, because this is going to let you know who the account is or who the contact is owned by, who the contact is assigned to, if it came from a lead source. It's going to kind of give you a little bit more information when you're a part of a team and just let you know who actually owns that contact, who's working on that contact, and all of that. You do also have access to add collaborators when you're on a team. Think of a collaborator as somebody who's just going to have access to view and kind of set that person up on marketing materials, but they don't have access to like archive or delete that contact in any way. So if you guys do have a marketing coordinator, you can manually add them on as collaborators. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a bulk way to do that yet, but we're hopeful that will be available soon. Go back to my contacts. If you guys are looking to bulk assign, you guys do also have access to that. You can select the check mark next to the name and come in here. You guys have access to, again, assign. You guys can export. Assign is probably one of the biggest things in regards to team portal and running everything through that team profile. You can also send them to lead pool or send them to lead routing. If you guys have a lead route set up, you can bulk add contacts that maybe just haven't been nurtured yet, maybe a new list you're just importing, maybe you exported some leads from Zillow or realtor.com, or you just ran a Facebook ad. You have access to send them to lead routing, and all that means is whichever lead route they apply to, it will automatically run them and route them to that agent. If they don't qualify for those lead routing, where will they go? It actually puts them into lead pool automatically. Lead pool is this little toggle button right here on the left-hand side. You'll only have access to toggle this on the team profile. So if you are on the personal profile and you click it, it's not going to do anything. Don't panic. That is what's supposed to happen. So it only gives you access under the team profile. But when I click on that, it will pull up any leads that essentially are either sitting in lead pool. It will also pull up any leads that were captured by the team specifically. So if you guys ran a paid Facebook ad or anything like that and leads came through, this is kind of where they'll sit if there isn't a lead route set up. Lead route will essentially grab those leads first and route them out accordingly. Anything that doesn't qualify for that particular lead route that you guys might be using, this is kind of like the safety net. This is where those leads are going to go once they have been captured by your team profile. So if you guys have not checked out lead pool yet, I definitely recommend toggling that on at some point today, just to make sure that you guys are keeping an eye as to what contacts are in there. And also make sure that you're either checking it on a regular basis or just make sure that you don't have very specific lead routes set up, so no one will ever actually end up in your lead pool. If you guys have lead routes that are covering all of the sources, there is actually a toggle switch that says all sources. I recommend using that, especially while you're getting comfortable with the routing portion. This is just going to make sure that every single lead that's captured gets routed out to an agent instead of sitting in lead pool. If it does go through the lead route portion, which is also covered in the tip video, but if the lead does go through the lead route portion and just no agents capture it, meaning agents either their lead route expires, maybe they forget to confirm, anything along those lines, they will still end up here. So still just make sure you toggle this on and off every so often, just to make sure no one is hiding in here on accident. So that pretty much covers our contacts portion. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys smart plans and just pull this up just so you guys can see what this looks like from a team perspective. And then I just want to do a quick once over on opportunities, just so you guys can see that as well. We always go a couple minutes over on this class, so I apologize. I'll probably be going until about 2:05. But as far as our smart plans portion, you'll notice the second this loads, I do have access to, again, toggle back and forth. And you'll notice Lori has a ton of personal smart plans created. And when I toggle back over to the team, it's not quite so many. It does pull up completely different smart plans. This is something that you want to keep in mind, because if you are moving contacts from your personal database to your team, this is going to remove any smart plans you may have them set up on. So if you're using the change contact or the change account portion, or if you're exporting and importing, the smart plans that you may have set up under your personal database will not automatically be under the team. They do need to be manually recreated. So this is just something to keep in mind. If you're wondering whether or not you're even utilizing this, I know some agents have set up smart plans on their personal database. Maybe they set them up a year ago, 2 years ago, and just haven't really been watching them. Smart plans kind of take on a mind of their own, which is perfect. You add your clients to it, they'll automatically kind of trickle through that smart plan, and it's something that you can add them to and not really look back. I do recommend taking a look at your personal profile, seeing what you have set up, as that's just going to make it a little bit more clear in regards to what will happen as you start to move contacts over to that team as well. And if you guys ever have questions on how this is set up, feel free to always reach out to us as well, the support at scottleraemarketing.com. We can always spot check your specific account just to see if everything's all set and ready to go. But yeah, definitely keep in mind there are 2 separate profiles. As far as the actual smart plans that are created under a team, the only difference between a personal smart plan and a team smart plan is when you have a team smart plan. I'll pull up one to edit just so you guys can see. This is literally the only difference is when you go ahead and you actually set up like email or anything like that, it's going to give you this little checkbox that says use default designated agent. If that's checked, it just means the settings that we just went through on the back end of the Rainmaker's account, checkmark means we're using what was set up. If I uncheck it, it's going to allow me to manually change this. Only the Rainmaker and unlimited permissions have access to do this. No one else will. So if you do have enhanced or standard permissions utilizing smart plans, they won't have access to tweak that. So that's, again, something just to keep in mind. But it will automatically keep them locked in as use designated default. And this will be for anything that applies to the designated default. So tasks, emails, and phone calls all have that little checkbox. So that's, again, just something to keep in mind. The overall process for smart plans outside of that is the exact same as your personal database. Designs, pulling designs in, navigating through your library to locate smart plans. You guys can find all the same smart plans when you're on the team profile. You would just need to grab them from the library in order to get them under the team profile if you had already created them under your personal profile. So that's just something to keep in mind. Last but not least, let's take a look at opportunities. And we do have, I have some tip videos on this as well, just in case you guys want a little bit more information. I just want to do a once over so you guys know where to look and kind of can start playing around with this as well. So when I click on opportunities, you're probably noticing a couple of things. I have a team tab, I have a personal tab, and then I have all opportunities and all discussions. Team tab. Primarily, if you guys are under settings earlier and you guys were seeing that no was checked off, what that means is that they do not have access to create personal opportunities. This also means that they will only have a team tab. So don't panic. If you're only seeing a team tab, just means your team is set up so that opportunities should be run through the team. If you have a personal tab, this means any opportunities that you may have created outside of the team, this is where they're going to sit. If you were previously an individual agent, you were practicing real estate as an individual agent, and you were removed from that portion, meaning you now function 100% as a team and this tab went away, your opportunities did not get deleted, your pipeline did. So all it means is this pretty pipeline that has this organization set up, that went away. All of your opportunities are now just hiding under all opportunities. You did not lose anything. They'll all be there. This also happens if you ever leave a team. If your team, say, decides to merge with another team, or you guys decide to completely rebrand, anything along those lines, anytime you're not seeing an opportunity on your pipeline, and this actually goes for individual agents as well as team agents, check all opportunities. It's usually hiding under there. You guys will have access to locate it. So don't panic if you ever create an opportunity and just can't find it. It did not delete itself. Opportunities actually don't delete. Even when you archive them, they're still under all opportunities. So there isn't actually a delete option for opportunities. So just keep that in mind. In regards to creating a team opportunity, if I click on create opportunity, you'll notice that my team name is automatically plugging in because I'm on that tab. If I delete that team name, you'll notice that it kind of updates some of my basic information. You'll notice that I only have my one market center, but I still can reselect my team and it will essentially update the owner name. If you're not the Rainmaker, you'll notice that the owner name, when you're on a team, it's going to be the Rainmaker's name. Don't panic. That just means that you're creating it under the team. And because the Rainmaker owns that team, it shows them as the owner. This is not going to adjust your access. It's not going to adjust anything in regards to your commission. However, your office has that set up is how it will essentially play out. This is specifically because you are creating it under that team tab. But as long as you guys are plugging all of this information in, you also have access to manually add assignees. So if you are creating an opportunity and say you're creating it under the team, what it will do is it automatically adds yourself as an assignee for that particular transaction. If you have a transaction coordinator on your team, maybe you have somebody who you recently brought on to kind of help with the transaction specifically, you can actually add them at the point of starting this opportunity. So say if Scott Leroy was our transaction coordinator, I can select him from that dropdown. And all this means is now once I create this opportunity and Scott refreshes his opportunities tab, this opportunity is going to show up on his pipeline under the team. It gives Scott full access, just like an agent. He'll be able to see everything. It will show up under whichever pipeline section it should, and it gives them full access. This is a great thing to do as you're creating team opportunities, just so you're not backtracking. If you're in a situation where you are now backtracking, out of this, it's not impossible, so don't worry. You can backtrack and you can add people on. It is just redundant because it does have to be done one by one. So if you do have a new transaction coordinator that you just added to the team, you can always go ahead and manually add them to an existing opportunity. I'm going to go ahead. I know I have a couple of test ones under here. I'm going to go ahead and just select one of these guys. So if I have an existing opportunity, I would want to locate the opportunity and just open it. Once I'm in here, I can go ahead and click on this little pencil under general information, and it's going to allow me to add additional assignees. So if I add Scott to this one and I save this, you'll notice he now shows up with Lori as an assignee. All this means is Scott will now have access to log in under his command, his guest command account. Click on the handshake icon to locate opportunities, and he's going to see this opportunity under his sales pipeline under listing cultivate. It's going to show up right there for him, which is fantastic. If you haven't added people on your team as assignees to an opportunity, they will not have access to that opportunity. It will not hide under all opportunities. Only people who you add as assignees are going to have access to opportunities that you create under the team. So if John Smith is a buyer's agent and he's helping somebody purchase a property and he needs Sally Sue to have access to it, he's going to have to manually add Sally to this opportunity as an assignee in order for her to gain access. The only loophole is if Sally is also the Rainmaker. She does not need to be added to anything. She will automatically have Big Brother access to every single opportunity created under the team because they are set up as the owner. That's kind of that little loophole and why they show up as the owner. So anytime you guys create an opportunity under the team and you see that Rainmaker as the owner, all that means is you don't have to add them as an assignee. It automatically makes them the owner. It will show up on their pipeline for the team profile, no matter what, whether you add them or not, they're going to show up here. It's going to help them just to kind of see what's coming in, if everything's being filed properly. It gives them that access to kind of help you guys as well. So just something to keep in mind. But if you are looking to share an opportunity with anybody outside of someone in the Rainmaker status, it does need to be done manually. Last but not least, you guys do have access to obviously the chat option within opportunities. You also have access to set up your stages. I don't know if you guys have dabbled with that. We'll go into that as well. But in regards to your actual opportunities, if I pull up my opportunity, you'll notice on the top right-hand side, I have client updates. I have my little checklist option. We have a whole tip video that goes over this too. If you guys haven't set up the checklists, they're really cool. But you guys also have access to discussion. So the discussion tab, think of this as like an instant messenger. It's actually pretty cool. So if you guys have an opportunity that you're working on, and this is primarily fantastic for a team because it's going to let you guys communicate with everybody on that team, I can go ahead and do like at Scott, and it automatically starts pulling up people on my team. And I can just say like, did you check blank, and then send it. What it's going to do is it's actually going to ping Scott's account. It's going to put a little notification in the top right. So he's going to get a notification here, and then he'll be able to open that, click on the notification, and it's going to bring him right to this opportunity. So you guys can actually use the discussion tab as a way to communicate without leaving post-its around your office. So it's kind of like a nice way to either get the message across, check to see if something was done. It's just going to allow you to keep that as organized as possible. For our checklists, if you guys haven't started utilizing these yet, no worries. I know Lori doesn't have a lot of these set up yet. But as far as these go, you guys do have access to set up customized checklists. I'm hoping, does she have any set up in here? Nope. So you guys do have access to set up checklists. The checklist will actually allow you to not only assign certain things out to people on your team, but it's also going to allow you to give it a due date. If you guys are utilizing checklists and you guys pull this up, again, you can assign them out to anybody on your team. Unless you give it a due date, it's not going to save. So just make sure when you guys add that in, that you are adding in a due date at the same time that you are assigning that task out to the member on your team. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on that. And there is a tip video in the notes as well. So if you guys do need it, it's towards the bottom of the notes under opportunities. If you guys haven't set those up yet, I'm losing my voice, I apologize. If you guys haven't set those up yet, once you guys get into opportunities, when we pull up the pipeline, any section that you guys click on of the actual pipeline, so say you want to set up the checklist for active listings, I would go ahead and click on this bubble, and you'll notice on the top right, I have edit stages. Edit stages is going to give me access to not only set up these stages, if you guys want to tweak those, customize those, you guys have full editability, which is really cool. You guys also have access to an entire checklist. You guys can come in here and create specific checklists. You guys can add items. You guys can link it to client update. You guys can edit and delete. And it's going to allow you to just kind of customize, again, checklists for your transactions and how you want those to be run. You guys can even get as creative as to create an entirely new stage. If there's something like she has the setup as staging, showing, negotiations, and legacy, you can come in here and actually create a whole new stage as well. So you guys have a ton of access back here in regards to what you can actually do. So if you are in a situation where you're trying to organize that opportunity section, that transaction section a little bit more, this is a great place to start. And as you guys do that, and as long as you guys are doing it under the team profile, everybody on your team is going to have access to it. So just make sure if you are creating and editing stages and updating things like that, make sure you're on the team profile. Again, this is going to be primarily a Rainmaker / unlimited permissions situation. But if you do this all under the personal profile and you do this all under, say, the personal opportunities tab, if I clicked over one and I start doing it under here, they don't communicate with one another. Your personal tab is your personal tab, and the team one is the one that people can see. So just keep that in mind as well. That pretty much sums everything up. I know there are a couple of questions that I probably did not answer. So if that was the case, definitely shoot us an email and we can take a look. Or if you guys are watching the recording and you guys have any questions from today's class, shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. And we can definitely address any specific questions that you may have. Keep in mind, again, the team system is consistently being updated. They're adding so much for you guys. So as you kind of start clicking around, things may start to relocate themselves a little bit. Don't panic. If there's something specific you were looking to do and you can't find it now, just let us know and we can always take a look on our end. But I hope that you guys have a fantastic day and enjoy what's left of your week.